Hi friends, welcome back to First Love Fire Homeopathy, where I share all the remedies I've been using for my family and friends, my pets, my livestock, and garden. And today we're going to talk about this icky flu we just had this past winter. We're just getting pretty much over it in my house. We had it just a few weeks ago, and I wanted to share the conglomeration of remedies that I used myself and with my family. So I'm going to really talk about my husband and my son the most, because I was well enough to treat them and help them get through it when I wasn't very well. My brain wasn't functioning. It's a nasty one. And so I was just taking some blends and just riding the train. Basically, I was taking the same things, but I just wasn't as coherent enough to pay attention to it. So I actually have written the things I gave my son and my husband, who had it about a month or so after I did. Like I said, it's been a crazy winter of just all of these gross illnesses. It's not like we usually get some kind of bug in like December or so, but this year it came a little later, and we had it in January. 3 of us had it in January, and it came around again, and then at the end of March 2 people got it, and that was my middle son got it again for a second time, and then my husband got it this time. My youngest son has never got sick this year, which is kind of unlike him. But I'm really grateful, and I'm glad, and I don't wish this bug on anybody this year. It was kind of a brutal bug season this year for our house. So let's get into the remedies I used. The first thing I want to share with you is just like the cycle of how this flu went, because it really did have a set of symptoms that were kind of one after another. And once we got a handle on one symptom, another symptom came. It was easier in a way to not be chasing a whole bunch of symptoms. I was able to just treat with one symptom at a time, and that was really great. So this flu starts with this intense headache, and it just is a migraine headache of all migraine headaches, and it's all in the front right here, and it comes down the bridge of your nose and a little bit on your face, but mostly it sits right here on the crown of your head, and it's just harsh headache. And then once you kind of grasp on the headache, it turns into, or it kind of flows into a fever. The fever kind of comes with the headache a little bit. It kind of corresponds. Now the headache lasts for probably the majority of the part of the flu, but then with that comes this fever. And to be honest with you, I was never able, with any of the people who were sick in my home, I was never able to actually find a remedy that took that headache completely away. It was just riding the headache train, unfortunately. And so then we came with the fever, and just had the feel like you're cold, sweaty, and feels hot to the touch, and the throbbing pain of it that comes in your head. And then it had these body aches. Okay, these body aches were something I've never felt before in a flu. It was just your bones ached. You had joint pain that I've never felt before. It was bizarre. You just felt like you were laying on the couch or on the bed, and it just felt like you were very aware of the existence of your bones. Like you knew you had arms and legs, and kind of your back throbbed, and it was awful. And then the fever breaks, and the bone pain goes away, kind of the cycle of this flu. Same cycle with everyone. And then the sinuses start leaking. And so I had a really runny nose. My husband had these goopy eyeballs, and that was fairly quick part of the symptoms. It just took a day or two to get rid of the leaking section of it. And then you got this nasty cough. Now the cough was pretty manageable during the day. You're starting to get a little bit more energy at this point, and you can get a few things done. I was back to checking on my animals, doing some dishes, cleaning up the house by then. At this phase, my husband was starting to move around, going back out in his wood shop, and he was starting to move around again too. But at night, the cough was brutal, and you could not lay down at night. Both my husband and I could not lay down flat at night for several nights. And so when I had it, I was sleeping in the recliner for a few nights, and then my husband got it again. And when my husband got it, he was sleeping in the recliner for a few nights. And I believe it was 3 nights he was sleeping in the recliner, because you just have to be upright As soon as you lay flat, you just can't feel like you can't breathe, and you just start hacking, and it's a crazy cough. Okay, now I'm going to share all of the remedies, and I have it on a list because it was a lot. All of the remedies that we used for my husband and my son to get them through this process. Now, the first thing I gave them when I started to notice symptoms, and I'd already had it, and I was like, no, not again. I don't wish that on anybody. It was Osseo. We went right with the Osseo because that's the early onset of flu-like symptoms, and if you can get to it quick enough, and if it often will lick it and be done. That wasn't the case for this one. But what I did do was I made a water tincture of the Osseo, put some of the little tiny pellets in some water, and throughout the entire process of the flu, which was about 2 weeks, honestly, everyone was sipping on that. I used it prophylactically as well, and my youngest son, who never got sick, was also sipping on the Osseo just a little bit, I think maybe 3 times a day in a water bottle, just to prevent him from getting it, and he never did. So I don't know if I chalk that up to the Osseo or he just has like a great immune system this year. So he's very blessed this year that he didn't get it. So the first remedy that I went to was gelsemium. Now gelsemium is for weakness, exhaustion, and withdrawal from social interactions, and that's exactly what my son was doing. So this remedy I gave to my son. He had this heavy, drooping eyelids. He just looked miserable in general. He had the aching muscles and the lack of thirst. And the lack of thirst is what caught my eye when reading the rubrics about the remedies. It was different from my husband, because my husband wanted things to drink all the time. My son didn't want to drink anything, and Mama Bear kept forcing him to get his liquids. They were drinking lots of herbal teas and lots of water and electrolytes. And so gelsemium seemed to help my son. He was a little more perked up shortly after giving him his first dose, and he did have that for a couple of days. Now, while gelsemium worked well for my son, what worked well for my husband was eupatorium. Now, eupatorium is known for the heavy, severe body aches. The bone aches, the back, the limbs, arms, legs, that is what eupatorium is used for, and it helped with my husband. It also helps with the fever, and it also is for when the patient is exhibiting an aggravation to cold, and my husband did not want to be cold. He wanted to be bundled up, whereas my son was just a light blanket and just didn't want to be messed with. The next remedy that worked really well that I used for my husband was Hippersulf. Now, Hippersulf is for cough, fever, infection, works for the sinuses, and the key symptoms for that is he was craving warm drinks, and warm drinks is a sign for that, as well as the sensitivity to the cold and to touch. Those are not things that my husband is typically known for. He is a sleep out in the snow if you'd let him kind of guy. He likes to be cold all the time, and he did not like to be cold during this, and so the Hippersulf helped him. Another remedy that worked really well for my husband was belladonna. And belladonna is known as the great interrupter, and I did give this to both my husband and my son in hopes that it would help, but it did not help my son at all. He only had the 1 dose, and he was still pretty miserable, and it didn't show any signs that he was reacting well to it at all. So I stopped giving it to my son, but for my husband, he had the belladonna, and it worked well for him. Belladonna is great for heat and inflammation, and it's a sudden onset of heat. What happened with my husband was he got really hot to the point where you didn't have to touch him. You could feel how much heat he was radiating off of him. It was crazy. I was just like, wow, you are so warm. And so I gave him belladonna, and I gave him belladonna 3 times over the course of 1 hour. So it was about every 20 minutes. And by the end of that hour, and it was in the evening time, by the end of that hour, you could touch his skin and it was much, much cooler. And he was able to rest that evening. Why? Because the cough hadn't set in yet. He was able to sleep that night. The other key thing for belladonna is that it talks about swelling and throbbing, which that headache was a throbbing headache, and his skin felt like it was throbbing and swelling off of it, the way it was just so hot. Sensitivity to touch, and he was sensitive to the touch, as well as a desire to escape. Now, it's not in my husband's personality to sit and relax ever. And so that desire to escape fits his personality. And so belladonna really fit the cue for him. And the fact that he fell asleep, and he fell asleep quite quickly with any of the remedies when you're dealing with coughs and colds and flus, falling asleep is a great indicator that you are on the right track, because their body is able to settle enough, calm down enough to fall asleep and thus heal. Now, since belladonna did not work for my son, I used bryonia for him. He had a desire to be still. He just wanted to sit on the couch and watch Garfield. He was quiet. He wanted to be left alone. He didn't want to move. Bryonia is known for worse from movement, and bryonia helped. When I gave him bryonia, after the second dose, because again, I did give it to him 20 minutes apart, because I noticed the first time it was working, and it was just starting to work. So the second time, I gave it to him again, and he fell asleep. And I didn't have to give it to him anymore after that. The next thing that happened is my husband started to get a little bit of energy, and he was starting to feel a little bit better. But he woke up in the morning, and one of his eyes was just goopy and drippy and red and swollen, and he just had stuff coming out of it. And by the next day, it was both eyeballs were just goopy and gooey. And it took about 2 days for both the eyeballs to completely get all the goop and gooey out. And for that, I used eupatorium. Eupatorium is known for conjunctivitis and comfort with a cool compress, and he was putting compresses on his eyes. He was going in the shower and just scraping and pushing it out of the tear ducts. And I believe the euphrasia helped him, because he felt like he had sand in his eyes and it just felt icky. And he told me that after having taken the euphrasia, that he felt like it did get better and he didn't have so much sand in his eyes. So while it was still gooping, it was good that it didn't feel so sandy and gritty in his eyeball in general. So that's great. Shortly after the eyeball part of it, and he was just starting to feel a little bit better. And the fever's gone, the heat is gone, and you're just sort of at that tail end of the bug, the onset of that cough comes. And that cough requires just an absolute sitting up. You can't lay down, and it's horrible at night. During the day, it's manageable. It's not that bad. At night, it is awful. And my husband was just not getting any rest. And so the first thing we tried was the Chestol cough syrup from Boron, and that didn't touch it at night. During the day, it actually was great. It's got a honey in it. It coats your throat. It feels really good, and it was fantastic, but at night it did not work. So because of at night, I tried another blend, which was the Highlands Cold and Cough, and it was a nighttime specific remedy blend, a syrup. And that syrup helped him relax a little bit, maybe, but it really didn't do anything for the cough. He still had to be upright, and he was still up coughing. He was up coughing for about 3 nights, and he just kept saying, I just want to sleep. Also during this time, I was giving him Spongia. Now, Spongia is a remedy for that dry tickling in your throat that feels like your throat is dry, and it causes a cough. It feels like constriction in your throat, swelling in your thyroid. It's just dry and miserable cough. You feel like nothing's coming up. Now, when I had the cough, I had stuff coming up during the day, but at night it was just dry. It didn't feel like it was coming from the chest at all. There was no respiratory distress whatsoever, just straight from the throat. That's all it felt like. None of the entire bug did I ever feel like I had any respiratory distress whatsoever. And my husband said the same thing. With the Spongia, I found that it was effective, but I learned a lesson with it, and that is that I was only giving it to him at night, right before he'd go to bed. It wasn't effective. By just giving it to him one time, right before bed, it would calm it down a little bit, but it wasn't very lasting. So for some reason, I guess I was back to my allopathic brain. I was thinking like a Robitussin, where you'd give the cough syrup right before bed and knock you out. And I wasn't even thinking about the fact that the Spongia needed to be an ongoing, in the day, frequent remedy, put it in to be taken during the day, which would make the evening better. And that was exactly what happened. So by the 3rd day, I said, you need to be taking this remedy during the day, made him put it in his water, and also sent the drinking the water throughout the day. By the time he got home at night and he went to lay down, yes, it was starting back up again, but it was not nearly as bad. and he was able to lay down, and he was able to get some sleep. And so he just stuck with the Spongia for a couple more days until the cough was completely gone at night. So that's the ticket. Remember, got to get out that silly allopathic brain about how you just take a medicine right before you need it, and then half an hour later it works and it kicks in. It's not like that. It's the frequency. And so taking it every few hours throughout the day gave his body the healing it needed during the day to lay down at night and feel better. So once we got through all of that bug, we all needed to just recover, right? Because when you're done with a bug like that that's completely wiped you out, despite the fact that you've been sitting around all day, you still need to recover. And so to recover and replenish your body's nutrients, we all took cell salts for about 2 weeks straight. Twice a day, 30C, bioplasma, cell salts. The cell salts rebuild your immune system and they replenish your minerals. And so we've all taken that. We're all back to normal. We have a lot of things going around the farm. And so clearly, it's a different day. The sun is out. It's finally feeling really nice out, and everybody in the house is feeling way better. It's been a couple of weeks since my husband and my son have recovered from their flu, and my husband is doing just fine. My son has this headache that he just can't seem to kick. It's just a dull headache, and it's sitting right here above the eyes, and it's sitting right here at the bridge of the nose. And he's doing all normal life things and he's fine, but he's still got this headache. He never complains about it. He barely tells me about it. He's a 13-year-old boy. But I've been asking him questions and just staying on top of asking how he's feeling each day and how his recovery's been going each day. And he's taking the cell salts, and it's just not killing this headache at all. And so what I realized was my son, both the first and the second time he got sick, never had the drainage part of it, where I had this snotty nose and I was like gunk coming up, and my husband had those super goopy eyeballs that were just really gross. My son never had those symptoms. He never drained out the gunk. And so I'm thinking this headache is like sinus stuck like this. And so I went on a Banerjee Protocol Facebook group that I'm a part of because we're still learning. I'm not an expert. Everything I'm doing is stuff I'm learning. So we're learning together on this channel. That's what this channel is all about. That's why I wanted to start this. I wanted everyone to be part of the journey. I've been studying homeopathy for about 4 years. I've taken lots and lots and lots of classes, paid for classes, free classes, all kinds of classes. So I have a general idea of things, but there are thousands of remedies I've never heard of, and sometimes I just get stuck. And I had tried silica, I had tried bryonia, and I had tried the cell salts, which has the silica in it. Nothing was loosening this up. He's also been doing the neti pot and tea, various herbal teas, and none of it is loosening the gunk up, and I'm just trying so hard not to go get antibiotics. And so I went on this Facebook page, Banerjee Protocols, and I told what was going on, and I was told to do this remedy. It's called Hydrastis. It is essentially the homeopathic version of golden seal, something that we've taken for immunity off and on throughout the years, mostly in the winter. So I started looking it up in my different repertoires of Materia Medicas and online, and I made a little note about what the picture is for someone who needs to take Hydrastis. And the nasals are blocked with mucus, especially the posterior part of the nose. It's helpful where the discharge feels like it's burning and makes parts sore. So of course, when you start reading all these things, you start asking questions, and I'm asking my son, and he's like, yeah, my nose is a little bit sore. It says it's a frontal headache accompanies the nasal discharge, and there's swelling of the soft bones in the nasal cavity. Okay, that seems to fit the picture. It's also given for bronchitis, which we didn't really have anything that had like it felt respiratory, but it's considered for like the old man's cough. It wasn't a barking cough, but it was kind of like a constant cough. Just on a side note, it's also great for ears, hemorrhoids, and female organ issues. So that's a wonderful thing. But when you're looking at the specific bug that we have, it talks about post-nasal drip, inflammation of the mucus passages, and expulsion, a cough with loose expectorant that won't come out. So everything is hyperactive, and the mucus is made more than usual. The nostrils are being blocked, and so that increases the amount of pain and pressure in the face. So he's been on this for a couple of days. He has mentioned slight improvement, but again, he is my introverted 13-year-old boy, and I'm going to keep going on this. What was recommended to me online was the Hydrastis 200 3 times a day. So I picked it up right away and I ordered some more, and we're going to give it a shot. I want to get this video up and going because since we're all feeling better and this weather is amazing, we've all been doing all kinds of other things around the farm that I want to get out and posted and showing you. And so we're going to get working on that. I'll let you know if this works for him and if it doesn't work for him, and maybe it doesn't work and it becomes a whole nother video of trying to figure out what to do here. But stay tuned, and we're going to start showing you all the things we've been doing around the farm, because I've been using homeopathy with everything, and it's been really fun, and I'm seeing really great results. And so yeah, it's going to be really cool. So thank you for joining us on this video today. Remember, Jesus first and then homeopathy, and you have a great day.